Victoria Nuland admits the U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline and discouraged a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. We're unpacking this new development and so much more here on Beyond the Headlines, only on Vigilant News. This segment is sponsored by My Patriot Supply, helping Americans prepare with emergency meal kits at preparewithbnn.com. I'm Elijah Schaefer. Let's start the show. Well, the U.S. is once again admitting to of conducting criminal activity around the world and preventing peace, especially between Russia and Ukraine. Victoria Nuland admits the U.S. discouraged Ukraine from signing a Russia peace deal at the moment that it was really close. There's never a dull moment when former high-ranking State Department official Victoria Nuland goes on the record for a new tell-all. She's certainly never shy about broadcasting her role in anti-Moscow covert maneuvering and machinations. Indeed, many already know her as Victoria F. the EU Nuland, and for essentially running foreign policy in Europe, stretching back through the Obama years as then Assistant Secretary of State for Europe, where many of the problems which sparked the disastrous and tragic Russia-Ukraine war were first set in motion. Now, exiled Russian journalist Mikhail Zygar recently sat down with her for a new interview published to YouTube earlier this month. The most interesting part of their interview was when he pressed Nuland on widespread reports saying that British Prime Minister Boris Johnson actively encouraged President Zelensky to back out of a potential peace deal with Moscow early after the February 2022 Russia invasion. There was a possible chance to end the war and perhaps avoid hundreds of thousands of deaths, but the West apparently convinced Zelensky to fight it out. But a deal was on the table, and Russia was demanding a full commitment to Ukrainian neutrality regarding NATO, really close to achieving the goal. The Ukrainians began asking for advice on where this was going. And it became clear to us, and clear to us and the Brits, clear to others, that Putin's main condition was buried in an annex to this document, and they were working on. It includes limits on the precise kinds of weapon systems that Ukraine could have after the deal. The deal would leave Ukraine neutered as a military force, and people inside Ukraine and people outside Ukraine started asking questions about whether this was a good deal. And it was at that point that it all fell apart. Now, she went on to talk about this. Here's what she had to say.
2022.
This is another Russian myth. Good grief.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
an urban legend. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is the legend? What was true? Because there was a story first told by former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett that both sides were really close to the end, to the successful end of the negotiations, and then Prime Minister Boris Johnson interfered and stopped prevented Ukrainians from signing the deal. And then Ukrainian Representative Arahami kind of confirmed it. That yes, he said in an interview that there was some kind of advice from Boris Johnson to stop negotiating and to win this war militarily. Where is the myth? Where is the truth?
Well, look, I mean, only the negotiators know for sure because they were the ones in the room. But remember where we were. I think it was late March, early April, right, of 22. So Putin's dream that Kyiv would fall in 5 days, that he'd have control, was clearly not going to happen. And the Russian military was heavily bogged down and doing really stupid things like, 40 miles of open convoy and all of that kind of stuff.
So the deal was in place and they avoided it. Now, it's actually even worse than this because as we talk about more of the story, it turns out that she also went on, as this tweet from Ivan Kachanovsky explains, that Nuland basically then admitted that Ukraine-Russia peace deal, which was close to being finalized, fell apart because the US, UK, and other Western governments advised Zelensky's government that it was not a good deal, even though even members of Ukrainian delegations stated in recent interviews that this was a very good deal, the best deal that Ukraine could get, and a very real compromise, and that Ukrainian delegations celebrated it with champagne. She basically confirmed statements by ex-Israeli Prime Minister, head of Ukrainian delegation, Ukrainian officials close to Zelensky, ex-German Chancellor, and Turkish FM, that US and UK blocked the peace deal, which was close to being finalized. Now, Victoria Nuland did not mention at all the Russian war crimes in Bucha, which were inflated and misrepresented by politicians, media, and self-proclaimed experts as reason for ending peace talks. The peace deal agreement included withdrawals of Russian forces from all territory of Ukraine, with exceptions of Donbass and Crimea. Those status was to be determined at the meeting of Putin and Zelensky in exchange for the neutral status. So it's like, man, we had the ability to end this. Listen to what they had to say. Here's more about this.
There was a story first told by former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett that both sides were really close to the end, to the successful end of the negotiations, and then Prime Minister Boris Johnson interfered and stopped prevented Ukrainians from signing the deal. And then Ukrainian Representative Arahami kind of confirmed it, that yes, he said in an interview that there was some kind of advice from Boris Johnson to stop negotiating and to win this war militarily. Where is the myth? Where is the truth?
Relatively late in the game, the Ukrainians began asking for advice on where this thing was going. And it became clear to us, clear to the Brits, clear to others, that Putin's main condition was buried in an annex to this document that they were working on. Mm-hmm. And it included limits on the precise kinds of weapon systems that Ukraine could have after the deal, such that Ukraine would basically be neutered as a military force. And there were no similar constraints on Russia. Russia wasn't required to pull back. Russia wasn't required to have a buffer zone from the Ukrainian border, wasn't required to have the same constraints on its military facing Ukraine. And so people inside Ukraine and people outside Ukraine started asking questions about whether this was a good deal. And it was at that point that it fell apart.
And so what they do, they ended up stoking the war, ended up bombing the pipeline. Now, we know they were talking about this for a long time, but we'll get into this in a second, the details, because as many of you know, you don't need to tell me that life is precious and that it could all get taken away in an instant. That's why I keep a 4-week emergency food kit for my Patriot Supply in my home. It's got everything my family could need during a crisis. With over 2,000 calories per day, there's enough to go around during times of social unrest, government crackdowns, or God forbid, an attack on the homeland. The food lasts up to 25 years, ready whenever disaster strikes. And we've seen mass panic in our lifetime before. Some were not that even long ago, as we're seeing with the, basically wars being promoted by our leaders. I'm not going to take my family's safety for granted anymore, and I hope you don't either. Right now, you can get a $50 off the same 4-week emergency food kit that I keep in my home. Go to preparewithvnn.com. That's preparewithvnn.com and save $50 on your 4-week emergency food kit. My Patriot Supply will send it over as fast as humanly possible. Trust me, I know, because my order showed up in one day and it's shipped free, which is really nice. Get your 4-week emergency food kit now at preparewithvnn.com. That's preparewithvnn.com. Now let's talk about this. You say, well, how did we know? She's talking about, we're stoking this war. We wanted it to happen. We were trying to blame Russia for attacking the pipeline, as you can see further in the story. Well, we were talking about blowing up the pipeline for a long time. Where's my evidence? Here it is.
The sledgehammer that we have against Putin is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream 2.
And, Trump also isn't wrong to identify Nord Stream 2, this pipeline that he talked about today, as problematic.
There is still time to stop Nord Stream 2 if we act quickly.
The timeline for action is short.
And I'm not going to stop working to halt Nord Stream 2 to stop Russia.
End it once and for all.
I mean, he needs to kill the Nord Stream 2 pipeline right now.
And I think the most important thing right now, and what Zelensky said, is they want Nord Stream 2 stopped. That's what I see as the most tangible reason and the tangible effect.
I believe we must stop this Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
We should have brought the project to an end.
There's still time to stop it, but we need to act quickly.
Nord Stream 2 is a danger to peace as we know it.
Nord Stream 2 is energy blackmail.
It's Putin's pipeline. It's a trap for a Russian trap.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will put an end to it.
Germany should cancel the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. We're looking at a variety of things we could do there.
We've been so far trying to use other tools to stop the Nord Stream 2.
And we got legislation that was appropriate to now have delayed this project significantly. We need further tools. We're prepared to use those tools should you provide them to us. And we've also used our diplomatic capabilities.
This pipeline must be stopped. And the only way to prevent the completion is to use all the tools available to do that.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Kill Nord Stream 2 now and let it rust beneath the waves of the Baltic.
The operator of the Nord Stream gas pipelines, which run between Russia and Germany, says that 3 lines on the Baltic seabed were damaged on Tuesday.
It was a deliberate act of sabotage, and now the Russians are pumping out disinformation and lying.
I love how we denied that was happening. I remember during this, when this happened, I said that the U.S. was behind it because obviously it was clear it was us. And I was censored actually by the people that I worked with at the time. They're like, you can't say that. You're a Putin puppet. But it turns out to be true. Now, if you want more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter down below at vigilantnews.com. Also, if you want to get more videos like this, you can also follow us on Rumble and on X. We are at Vigilant News. My name is Elijah Schaefer. Have a great rest of the week. May God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.